Greetings, I'm Paul Friedman, founder of the Marriage Foundation. If you're new to this channel, this is the place where you need to come all the time for marriage advice and more, because we don't use any Western psychological ideas. They don't work. I used to be a divorce mediator, so I know that, because all my customers in those days, this is before 2001 when I discovered marriage, all of my customers came from marriage counselors. It doesn't work. So I did a deep dive. This stuff does work. Your problem that you're coming and doing a search for now, this is what to do when you're disappointed with your spouse. This is for men. If you're a lady and you want to find the answer, we have a video for you too, but this is for men. One of the things that I do that turns out to be very important is I separate. So if you think that this is like biased, it is, because it's addressing a man's perspective. It may not make you happy, but it's going to work. That's the point. So subscribe to the channel. Do that now, please. And then you could like the video later, and you could also leave a comment if you wish. So when you're disappointed with your wife, that's your spouse, what that means is that, and I'm going to break it down very simply, that means you're judging her based on her personality, based on her idiosyncrasies, based on things she does, things she says, and it's not up to the standard that, I'm going to put it clear, that you imagined. We never know who we marry. Never. Even people who've dated for years, once they get married, and I'm talking about living together, everything changes. The dynamic that occurs when you live with somebody is completely different from getting to know them. That's just the reality. But here's what is the most important thing to know. Again, subscribe. The thing to know is that you didn't marry your wife because of her personality. You took that into consideration when you met her and when you dated her and courted her. But the truth of the matter is that you recognized a connection at the heart level. And this is not, mystical stuff. The truth is this: you are a soul, and this is not religious. She's a soul, and you are soulmates. When you get together with your soulmate, which is free will in action, it's the highest degree of free will, because you're choosing who you're going to love. All the other people we love in our lives, our kids, our mother, father, our siblings, friends, not our friends, it's compelled by our biology, by propinquity. But your wife, you chose her. You didn't choose her because she has beautiful eyes, although she may very well have beautiful eyes. You didn't choose her for the sweet sound of her voice, although she may have a very sweet voice. You chose her because you felt this love. Now, this love occurs on a bridge, a connection. Remember, the word marriage means union. The union between the two of you as souls, and you have a body and you have a mind. You don't have a soul. You are the soul. And so that's the connection that is all important. So all of this other stuff, the stuff that makes you disappointed, is BS. You have to just put that aside. And you have to remind yourself that you're there with her because you love her. And I'm going to teach you something that you never hear anywhere else. It's your job as a married man, or even if you're a married woman, to cultivate that love. You see, again, it falls back to free will. Now, this can get very complicated, and I have books, I have courses. This is all about the science. This is what I discovered in 2001. And by the way, since then we've saved thousands of marriages. There's a science to marriage. And it applies the same way the science of automobiles and driving applies when you get behind the wheel of a car. And you think, oh yeah, but driving is pretty easy, but you don't remember how much time and effort you put into learning how to drive. And yet, marriage, which is more complicated, we didn't put in any time. We're basically taught about marriage by watching sitcoms or listening to stand-up comedians and watching movies. Those are our examples. As kids, you don't really see your parents from that perspective of what's marriage like. That's not how we learn. So we don't learn about marriage. And that was one of my great discoveries, is that there's no science. So I created the science. Back in 2001, I didn't do it overnight, trust me. I'm not one of these people who sits down and writes out the science in a book. My first book didn't come out until 7 or 8 years later, after I had met with many hundreds of couples and individuals who wanted their marriages saved, and I was developing the processes that we now have in place in our courses. So everything here is solid, rock solid. So let's go back to this. What to do when you're disappointed with your spouse, with your wife. You start controlling your mind. You see, this mind belongs to you. It's your computer. It's used for calculating. It's used for measuring things, for analyzing things, screening. That's what it's used for. But what's happened is we have become slaves to our habitual thoughts. So you need to start examining those. And when you have a judgmental thought about your wife, you got to go, no, I'm going to go with, oh my God, I love her so much. You see? So that's what you do. You start controlling your mind. You change up yourself, and everything else will change. That's it. I'm Paul Friedman. Go to our website, by the way. You could download the 10 top do's and don'ts. It's free, and there's so much else there. There's articles if you like reading, and then there's things for sale like the courses. There's books which are cheaper, etc. So I'm Paul Friedman. I founded the Marriage Foundation. I hope to see you again. Don't not subscribe. You know, the reason I keep pushing subscribing is because it helps us reach more people. And that's what we want to do. We want to get the word out. Why live with this mystery of marriage when we could have ownership over what it's all about, just like we do driving and things that we're familiar with? God bless you. Take care, and thank you.